Right, on the air right now, I've got Jason Jean Bennett, and we're going to be talking to him now about his book and so on. Eat Less and Live Long. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's really good to have you here, Jason, and you're going to be in Hamilton this evening, I gather, and talking about, not only your book, but also that whole aspect of longevity.
Indeed I am. Yes, it's a fascinating topic because a lot of people think that longevity is about your genetics, that you were born with good genes or good luck or good hereditary. But when you actually study the centenarians, and I go into this tonight in a seminar and I go into it in real detail in the book, the centenarians, which are these people, these groups of people around the world who live into their hundreds with low blood pressure, with no cancers, with no obesity, with no heart disease, and no diabetes.
Yep.
These are the people that live long, healthy lives, and they're healthier than us in their hundreds than we are in our 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And when you start to look at them, you start to realize pretty quickly that it's nothing to do with genetics. It's all to do with how they live their lifestyle. So it's their diet and lifestyle that makes the big difference.
Well, that's an interesting one because it's one of the things that's right before us today is obesity is rampant and people are not eating well.
Yeah, they're not. And the two biggest problems we've got pretty much to face now is that for the first time in history, over the last 50 years, the human race has had more than enough food. And throughout history, we've always had periods where there was feast and famine, where we had some food and then we didn't have food. And so suddenly we've got this period of 50 or 60 years where there's an abundance of food. And not only is there an abundance of food, which inevitably means we eat too much, but it's the wrong sort of food. So you've got the worst kind of food we've ever had and too much of it being eaten. And those two problems alone are just creating this enormous tsunami of obesity, of diabetes, of heart diseases, of lifestyle cancers, and early death and sickness. And it's so preventable just through changing those simple things.
Fine. Now, you talked about a lot of things in the book, of course, about eat less and live long. And that's a big thing. People are overeating irrespective of what they eat.
Yes, they are, exactly. You can overeat even on good food, but it's a lot harder to overeat on good food, particularly if you're eating a plant-based whole food diet, which is a lot more vegetation,
okay,
which of course is what we've evolved on. So a lack of fibre is a key thing, and fibre of course fills you up. So you can only get fibre in things like fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and whole grains and legumes and things like that. So the more of those kind of foods that you eat, the less you'll be able to eat overall, because simply you can't eat. I don't know if you've ever tried, but you can't actually go to an apple tree and eat 18 apples all at once. And the reason you can't, of course, is because it's so full of fibre. So when Mother Nature gives us natural foods with sugar in them, like fruit's got, which is very small amounts of good sugars in fruits, she also delivers us a huge amount of fibre, which means you can't actually overeat. But of course, if you extract that sugar and put it in a soda drink or something, then you can have 10 or 20 teaspoons, which is more than you get on an apple tree.
Yeah, well, that's really wonderful, isn't it, when you look at it in that light? And I've often wondered about people that live old, because sometimes you see somebody who's probably in their 60s and they're walking around with a walker or something like that. You see another person in their 90s and they're still straight up and down. So it's obviously something to do with what they've eaten or not eaten.
Exactly, it is too, and you can see that with the migration studies or even the twin studies where they've studied genetically identical twins. So these are the same genes with these twins, and yet one twin will outlive the other by 30 years. And the only thing they can put it down to, of course, is the diet, lifestyle, environment, because the genes are the same, so it's not genetic. And then you can look at the migration studies where you look at groups of people like the Africans in Africa who have very, very low rates, if not zero rates, of bowel cancer and bowel disease. And as recorded by Dr. Dennis Burkett, who was a surgeon, a British surgeon who was there for 25 years. And then you take the Africans and they move to America, and they've got the number one rates of bowel cancer of any ethnic group in America.
Is that right?
On their natural diet, and on their natural diet, it's virtually non-existent.
Good
and
Lord.
When you move them to America and you put them on the standard American diet and lifestyle, then they have the number one rates. And that's a shocker, just simply because New Zealand has the number one rates of bowel cancer in the world, primarily to do with what we're eating.
Thanks very much, Jason.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Okay, bye for now.